Hello, can you hear me okay? Did you get anything?
No, I didn't actually. Try again.
Hi there, this is just a mic check. Hi there, this is a mic check. Hi there, this is a mic check. Hello, and welcome to today's webinar on enhancing endpoint security with admin by request endpoint privilege management. I'm Graham Hack, and I'm a solutions architect here at Admin by Request EMEA. I've been working in IT for almost 20 years now, in a career that's included IT support, systems administration, and heading up end-user computing. Here's the agenda for today, and by the end of this session, hopefully you'll understand how Admin by Request EPM can streamline privilege management while ensuring real-time auditing and DSPT alignment. On this first slide, I want to highlight the core challenges NHS environments face when it comes to endpoint privilege management. Excessive user privileges. Many NHS staff still have permanent local admin rights. This significantly increases exposure to insider threats, both accidental and malicious, as well as the spread of malware on or unauthorized software. Productivity versus security. Clinical and operational users often need elevated privileges to perform essential tasks like installing drivers, running specialist apps, or updating software. But granting permanent admin rights creates the potential for security breaches. Then there's compliance pressures. NHS Trust must meet strict DSPT standards, including auditing, monitoring, access control, and incident response. Without proper controls, trusts risk falling short of standards met, creating legal, operational, and reputational risks. And then there's resource constraints. IT teams in NHS environments are already stretched across hospitals, clinics, and remote sites. Manual privilege management, approving requests, monitoring usage, and responding to incidents is extremely time-consuming and often inconsistent. This disconnect creates gaps in visibility and slows down service delivery for the users. These challenges lay the foundation for why modern, automated endpoint privilege management is essential for NHS trusts. Statistical insights. So let's talk about why privilege management really matters. First off, one of the biggest revelations is the majority of breaches, around 80%, involve some form of privilege misuse. So it's not always super advanced attackers, often it's simply that someone has more access than they should have. For NHS organisations, DSPT really raises the bar. It expects real-time monitoring and proper auditing if you want to hit those standards met. And that means you need tools that don't just collect logs, but actually give you visibility into what's happening on endpoints as it happens. And then there's data sensitivity. In healthcare, even a small slip can have huge consequences. GDPR, NHS digital requirements, potential fines, operational fallout. It all adds up. So managing privileges properly is a massive part of keeping patient data safe and keeping services running smoothly. So when you put this all together, it's clear managing privileges isn't just a technical exercise, it's core to both compliance and patient safety. So on this slide, I want to walk you through how endpoint privilege management ties directly into the DSPT areas that NHS trusts are assessed against. First up, staff responsibilities. This is all about making sure people only have the access they genuinely need. With EPM, we take away those always-on admin rights, but still let users get elevated access when they need it. It keeps everyone productive without adding unnecessary risks. Next is data security. Protecting patient information is obviously a huge priority. By controlling and monitoring who can run what on an endpoint, we reduce the chances of malware, unauthorized installs, or accidental changes that could put sensitive data at risk. Then we've got managing security incidents. DSPT expects organizations to be able to spot and respond to issues quickly. Real-time auditing gives IT and IG teams visibility into elevated activity the moment it happens, which makes it easier to identify unusual behavior and act fast. And finally, IT and governance processes. Things like access control and audit logging, standards 10.1 and 10.2, require clear, consistent evidence. Admin by request automatically logs everything and centralizes it in one place, so trusts have exactly what they need for DSPT reviews. So overall, EPM supports the trust in meeting its DSPT obligations without slowing people down or adding extra workload to IT. So this slide is really about getting aligned with DSPT. It's something NHS trusts genuinely need in order to stay secure and efficient. Firstly, every trust is required to submit the DSPT every year, and that means you've got to show real evidence that your security controls are working. It's not enough to say you've got processes. You need the logs, the reports, the audit trails to prove it. DSPT also expects everything to be evidence-based, so if your privilege management is scattered or manual, it becomes really hard to gather that proof when the deadline comes around. Another big point is integration. Whatever tool you use needs to work smoothly with what you already have, things like Active Directory and Azure AD. The last thing IT teams need is another system that creates more admin overhead. So when trusts don't have the right tools in place, that's when you see issues like inconsistent auditing, delays in responding to incidents, and a general lack of real-time visibility. All of that makes meeting DSPT requirements much harder than it needs to be. So the key takeaway here is to stay compliant and avoid additional strain on IT teams. Trust needs solutions that automatically collect evidence, centralize the data, and make privilege management as seamless as possible. So in conclusion, as the slide says, you need just the right amount of local privileges for just the right users at just the right time and for just the right amount of time. So let me walk you through what admin by request really is. Think of this as a really clean, simple way for users to get admin rights only when they genuinely need them, and only for as long as they need them. No more permanent admin accounts lingering around on devices. It works across Windows, Mac OS and Linux, so it's a great fit no matter what your endpoint environment looks like. The key part is how seamless it feels for users. They just request elevation when they need it, and that's it. They stay productive, but we keep the risk to a minimum. Meanwhile, every action is logged in real time, so if someone elevates, installs something or runs an admin task, you've got a clear audit trail instantly. That's incredibly helpful for NHS Trust trying to stay compliant without drowning in manual reporting. And because all the reporting and auditing is baked in, you get compliance data automatically, which makes DSPT requirements much easier to tick off. It also integrates with well-known SIEM tools, so if your security team is watching for alerts or unusual activity, these elevation events feed straight into their existing dashboards. So in short, admin by request gives users flexibility without sacrificing control, and it gives IT teams visibility without extra overhead. It's a really nice balance, especially in healthcare environments where both productivity and security are critical. I want to share a bit about the philosophies that shape admin by request and why they matter for NHS environments. First off, the solution is completely SaaS-based, which means no servers to buy, install or maintain. For busy NHS IT teams, that's a huge win because it removes a lot of overhead. It's also built for the cloud from the ground up with native Entra ID support. So if you're already using Microsoft Identity Services, the integration feels very natural and straightforward. Another big advantage is how quickly it can be rolled out. We're talking minutes, not months. The setup is intentionally simple, so teams can get value right away without a long project or complex configuration. What I really like is the balance between strong security and user productivity. Staff can still be productive without being permanently elevated or raising extra tickets, but the organisation stays protected. Pricing is very transparent too. It's a single SKU with no hidden add-ons, which makes budgeting and planning much easier. And even though it does a lot, the agent is incredibly lightweight, under 3 meg, so it's ideal for NHS endpoints where performance and stability are critical. Finally, the whole product reflects a Scandinavian design philosophy: simple, minimal, clean, focused on quality. It keeps things efficient and user-friendly, which isn't always the case in the security world. So let's talk about what all this actually means for NHS trusts. Enhanced security. One of the biggest wins is security. By removing permanent admin rights, we shut down a lot of the usual pathways attackers use, but we don't slow down the people who genuinely need to get things done. DSPT compliance. A big pressure for trusts is having the right evidence for DSPT. With admin by request, the auditing and reporting happens in real time, so no waiting. Efficiency gains. A major plus for your IT support teams is the reduction in admin rights related tickets. Staff can elevate when they need to, safely, so IT isn't constantly firefighting simple access requests. Scalability. Being cloud-based, ABR will scale naturally across hospitals, clinics and community sites. You don't need extra infrastructure or heavy agents. Deployment is quick and management is centralized. Why does all this matter? At the end of the day, trust needs strong security that doesn't get in the way of clinical workflows. Admin by request fits into that sweet spot. Zero trust, friendly, simple to run, and aligned with NHS requirements. Now I'd like to move on to a short demonstration of the product. When you log into the ABR portal, you will land on the summary page. Here you will find your subscription status, as well as other useful links such as recent alerts, recent software installations, and the latest blogs and other news. If you weren't already aware and wanted to do a POC, you can sign up to a free plan for the full EPM product for 25 workstations and 10 servers. So moving along the tabs along the top, the audit logger request tab will be self-explanatory as we go along. If we move on to inventory, under inventory you'll get hardware inventory, a software inventory, and you'll see all of the groups that the logged in user and their device is a member of. Moving on to the reports tab, you'll see a wealth of user reports, endpoint reports and settings reports, as well as a really useful dashboard which gives you a good overview of your tenant. We also use a common REST API, so you can link out easily to Power BI or similar reporting tools. We'll come back to the settings tab in a moment and move on to download. Here you can download all of the endpoints that Admin by Request supports. So we've got Windows, Mac, Linux and Windows Server. We've also got links to the download for the mobile app. The ABR client is a very small installer, around 2.5 meg, and is resource light on the endpoint, around 1% max CPU. So moving on to logins. Here you can create your portal logins, and it's very granular, so you can scope just the right amount of permissions to just the right users. Say for instance you had a department or team that looked after your Mac estate, you could make sure that they only saw those Mac devices, or you could scope by department again via Entra security groups or AD security groups. Coming back to settings, we can look at tenant settings. So out of the box, Admin by Request integrates with traditional Active Directory. When you install ABR client on an Active Directory joined device, ABR will be able to see all the groups with Active Directory that the device and the logged in user is a member of. ABR also integrates with Entra via an Azure app registration. ABR has additional integrations for Google Identity, Okta and Jump Cloud for visibility of device and user group membership. Moving on to Windows setting, this is particular to the Windows devices we'll be looking at today. You can see we have two options. We have Run as Admin, which is how you allow a single instance of an installer or software to run elevated. Secondly, we have Admin Session for those times when you need to run multiple actions elevated, useful for developers or advanced users. As you can see, these are both currently set to off. Our malware detection works independently from your own antivirus. When an installer or software is run, the hash of the file is checked against the databases of up to 37 antivirus providers. If the result is positive, the installer or software will be blocked or the result flagged on an approval request if configured that way. A very useful feature and an extra layer of security for your environment. In App Control, you can pre-approve installers of software to run elevated. This can be done at an individual installer level by unique hash, or by vendor level by digital certificate. You can also have a designated read-only network or file location, or in the case of legacy software, an installer can be forced to always run elevated if that's the requirement. The example we have here is for a specific version of Rufus This is a software for creating bootable USB keys which requires elevation and is approved by its particular version and by its checksum. So over to the test device. If I try and run a different version of Rufus, I'll get the usual UAC prompt. If I run the actual version 4.11, you can see this will run elevated, and if we go to Task Manager and scroll down, we can see that this version of Rufus 4.11 is the only thing on the system that's running elevated. So having seen the minimal permissions, let's go back and toggle and run as admin with reason and approval. We'll go back to the test box and see how it looks. Do a quick update of the settings. Now if we right click on an installer, click run as admin, we get a little form. We can put in our reason as to why we need the software. We can click OK, and that gets sent off to the portal. If we go to the audit log, we can see that this request is already sitting in the audit log, so it's gathering information already. And if we go to requests, we can see the request in the portal. So we can see who it's from, the reason they need to view it. We can see it's passed the metadefender as clean. If we weren't familiar with the software, we could click on AI Assistance and get a brief anonymous ChatGPT lookup as to what the software does. So in this case, I'm familiar with VLC, so I can click approve. So immediately on the endpoint, we get asked if we want to run the software now. You can either say no and defer till later, or we can click yes. There's a code of conduct which obviously warns people that they're doing things elevated. This is fully customizable to your own needs. We click OK, and a single instance of this VLC installer will run. I'll cancel it at that point because I don't want to install completely. So moving on to Windows subsettings. So we have the facility to create alternate permissions for a group of users or devices. This could be advanced users or developers, or in this example, I have a subsetting scope to an Entra security group called ABR engineers. I'm just going to enable that. So we can see under authorization, run as admin, requires a reason but not approval, and similar for an admin session. So we can run an admin session for 60 minutes without approval, but we need a reason. Say my user Paul, who's logged into this computer over here, he's been promoted, he's in the engineers team, he's more mobile in his role now, so he needs a little bit more permissions than the standard user. If we move down to app control, we can also see that under tray tools, which is a way of giving access for users to access to system parts of the Windows system. This user has the rights to uninstall a program, access to network adapter settings, and device manager. So again, we can pop back over to the test box and have a look at what that looks like. Again, we'll do a quick, just check I've got that turned on. Do that first. can see that's toggled to on. A quick refresh over here. So now my user can run various installers, just needs to give a reason. And he can go through the install. So this user can't do everything because I have a block in place for Oracle products. So if he tried to install an Oracle product, he would get blocked. I have personal experience of being caught out by Oracle licensing and the intricacies of that, so it's a good block to have in place. This user can also run PowerShell. Again with a reason. This user can also request administrator access for a period of time if he's got to do multiple things elevated. Again, puts the reason in. We see a little pop-up saying I have 60 minutes where I'm full admin. If we go to the command line, we can see that my logged in user, Paul Hewson, has temporarily been put into the local admin group. And when the timer times out 60 minutes, he'll be removed. So there are some degree of controls in place, still protections there. I have an old version of 7-zip here, which I know is a false positive. So if I were to click on that and run it, it would detect it as malware, would shut down my PowerShell session. I get a pop-up saying that it's been blocked for my protection. And you can also see it's killed my administrator session. So I think that's a really useful feature. The last thing I want to draw your attention to is the break class account that we have. If you really did need a full local admin in cases like your device has lost trusted domain or something's gone wrong with the Azure AD join, you can create a full local admin on the fly. Just go to the inventory of the device in question, go to break glass, click generate account. In a short time, that account will be generated on the endpoint. So if we pop back here, we can see that account exists on the endpoint now. The account will expire at the end of the specified time, or if the account is used to log in to a device, it will be deleted on logout. It's similar to Microsoft Lapse, but much more dynamic and secure. That concludes the brief product demonstration, but there are many more features if you would be interested in a longer demonstration. So that's the end of my webinar for today, but I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have. So I can't see any questions in the chat. So if we are all finished, I can only thank you for joining the webinar today. I hope you found it useful. Please like and follow the Zero Crust TV YouTube channel. We'd be very grateful to up our numbers. And many thanks for joining, and goodbye.